Time, a new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal says the president's own administrative changes could undo his signature piece of legislation, which we know is Obamacare. Republican leaders argue the White House is just making things up as it goes along.
Routinely deciding which parts of various laws he wants to comply with. Look at Obamacare. His view is if it's sort of inconvenient, he can say, never mind. That's not the way most of us read the statute.
So is the president his own worst enemy? Joining me now is our political panel, Chris Plante, the radio talk show host of The Chris Plante Show, and Simon Rosenberg, president and founder, New Democrat Network, and a former campaign advisor to President Bill Clinton. So what do you make of this, Simon? Because basically this editorial says that the string of Obamacare exemptions could arm a future Republican president with the legal tools to dismantle Obamacare's key provisions. In other words, if he could make all these changes, so too can somebody who doesn't like the law.
Well, perhaps, but I think that at the end of the day, the political reality is that if this is working, if a year from now, 2 years from now, there's a sense that Obamacare is working, then it's going to be a permanent part of the healthcare landscape for, time to come. And so far, I think the data is neither as bad as the Republicans say it is, nor as good as the Democrats want it to be. And I think time will tell in the next few months about where we are.
But, Chris, isn't the jury still out on whether or not the president can even do these changes that he's incorporated into the law? In other words, he's approached it piecemeal, keeping the parts that he likes and taking away the parts that he doesn't. So what would preclude a Republican president from doing the same?
It's not really even about Obamacare in the macro sense. It's about lawlessness. It's about an abuse of power. This administration didn't pursue the Black Panthers when they're intimidating people in the election place. They didn't like the Defense of Marriage Act, so they didn't enforce it. They didn't like Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so they didn't enforce it. They don't like Barack Obama's own signature piece of legislation, so they go through and line item veto things that they don't like out of it, which is illegal. It was passed by Congress, and the Supreme Court, I assume, will rule that way. And it would be the ultimate irony if a Republican president came in after President Obama and wiped it out using his own abusive tactics. And these are abusive.
Very interesting. Well, meantime, as more documents are declassified now over the deadly Benghazi attack, a top Senate Dem says she doesn't buy into the New York Times article blaming the violence on an American-made film mocking Islam. Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, powerful woman, Dianne Feinstein, told The Hill last week, quote, "I believe that groups loosely associated with al-Qaeda were involved in the attack." Now, Simon, one of her spokespeople went on to say, well, to say she rejected the conclusion of the New York Times is an overstatement. But you just saw the quote. So she believes al-Qaeda was involved, and she did in past interviews as well. So who are we supposed to believe here?
Well, I think this whole issue about whether al-Qaeda was involved, or their al-Qaeda affiliates, was a core al-Qaeda, we know they were jihadis. We know it was in a radical Islamic group, right? What we don't know is what the administration is saying is they weren't core al-Qaeda, and other people have said the New York Times came to the same conclusion. Look, what we know is that there was an attack. We know it was a radical Islamic group. We know that Americans died. We know that it was done on the embassy and on the CIA complex in Benghazi. And I think the reason this is still alive is there are people asserting that there was a cover-up. There was no cover-up. The president said,
the reason it's still alive, Simon, the reason it's still alive is because nobody's been arrested. Chris?
There was a cover-up. This whole thing has been a lie wrapped in a misrepresentation inside of a fantasy. This core al-Qaeda debate misses the point. Al-Qaeda is not the problem. Radical Islam, fundamentalist Islam is the problem. Political Islam is the problem. It's like saying we've got a problem with gangs, and if we could only contain the Hells Angels, then the problem would be solved. It's ridiculous. Listen, the person that headed up this attack, his name is Bin Kumu. He is a radical Islamist jihadi. He trained in Afghanistan and fought in Afghanistan and Pakistan with al-Qaeda. He was trained by al-Qaeda. He was captured on the battlefield and thrown into Guantanamo Bay. He was released from Guantanamo Bay and he went back to the fight. This word core doesn't do anything for me.
But it brings me back to my original point to Simon, which is if we know who these guys are, why are they not under arrest? That remains the big unknown question. Chris and Simon, thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.